Welcome into the GC Live Postgame Show. South Carolina picking up their first win of the season, taking care of Furman 47-21. Now, look, I understand at the end of the day, yes, it was against an FCS opponent. A very good one at that, but still an FCS opponent. There's going to be things where people are going to be like, well, you know, they should do that to that team, right? They should do that. Well, you know what? They did do that. Spencer Rattler played out of his mind. Lenore Sellers played out of his mind. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot. We're also going to talk about the O-line. I'm going to bump on over, give him an earpiece so that he can talk. But I'll step back a little bit shorter. Garrett Anderson joining us, the former Gamecock offensive lineman. Intern Joe is here as well. Garrett, let's just get right into it. Offensive line. Again, it's Furman, but at the same time, too, you can't control your schedule. What did you take away from specifically the offensive line play tonight?
I think, first and foremost, I think it's always important to keep it in there. The lens of Furman's not a bad football team. The talent is not there. It's a different talent. It's going to be your FCS talent, but well-coached players are way harder to beat than very talented, poorly coached players. It's just that's been the way football's been for forever. And you could tell as the game progressed, as we kept pounding on those guys, that we did wear them down, and that's kind of I'd rather have a team that fights than a team that doesn't. I think Logan's done a much better job putting us in a position to win. I think that matters. I think that's something we've got to do. I think there's still some other stuff that they're going to probably still seek in this game and do later. I think one thing that's important too that they did was having Rattler pull the ball and run.
Yeah.
I know that sounds really simplistic, but I'm just saying that if you have that faith that they never do it, it's all going to I was waiting for them to kind of shift some guys around, but not sure if they're going to do that. We're going to have to see.
Well, we have intern Joe too. If you guys want to call in, intern Joe is working the phone lines right now. Wanted to pull up some of the stats for you guys tonight. There were some issues with some of the statistics. We try to do this for you guys after games, a little bit on the fly here tonight with Garrett. So we'll try to share that with you guys. And again, if you guys want to call in, ask Garrett a question, do that. Intern Joe is here with us. I'm going to show you some of the stats tonight. And this is what you have. This is what you have here tonight. Just look at the play from Spencer Rattler. Again, I know people are going to look at this, Garrett, and they're going to say, well, you know what? That's what he should do. That's what he should do. You're looking at the stats right there. 25 of 27, almost 350 yards, 3 touchdowns. Sellers comes in, plays out of his mind. I want you to hold that thought because it looks like intern Joe might have a caller for us. So I'll wait for intern Joe to give us the thumbs up. But again, if you guys want to call into the program, do so. We have that number for you. There's the number right there, 803-881-2233. South Carolina winning their first game of the year, taking care of Furman at Williams-Brice Stadium. It wasn't perfect. As the game went on, it got better. Joe, who we got?
We got Wendy on the line. Wendy, go ahead.
I just like to say, Gamecocks, I'm so proud of this team and all the freshmen that played today. My question is the injuries, but I would like to also say that our offensive line showed up tonight and our defense. So go Cox.
All right.
It was definitely better, and I still think, and this is, while we played, 12 games. We're better than last week, and I know it's Furman, but Furman was well coached. And heck, look at the UNC App State game. I mean, good programs, well coached programs are going to fight. UNC fought. I think we're getting better at fighting. It was good to the freshmen. I will admit to that too. I love seeing Sellers do his thing. It's the guy who knocked us out at the state championship.
Oh, you mentioned that to me last week.
I'm glad he's good. But yeah, and I think Elon fought well too. I thought Tucker played a much better game.
What did you think about with the freshmen that did go in there? We had Big Tree in there, Babalade in there. You also had Ba in there, 2 freshmen. One thing that I mentioned, and I don't know if you agree with it, and just let me know what you thought about it, is a lot of short passes, a lot of screen passes, right? How much of that is it a combination of some of these things, trying to gain the confidence of the offensive lineman? Is it a combination of trying to have an extension of the run game? Is it also part of just the fact that you have a quarterback that's just being smart with the football right now?
A lot of what that is going to be in a simplistic term in RPO systems where we did a lot of trips to the right, have maybe one receiver over here with the run game going the opposite direction, where if you've got 3 over 3, so you got 3 receivers and then 3 guys in the secondary over them, you should have more numbers. That's going to leave you 8 with 8. And usually out of the deep safety, it's usually 8 on 7. So therefore you want to run the ball versus if you've got two guys over there and maybe someone kind of sitting in the middle of that. You've got more numbers with the ball out there. A lot of that's going to be that read to make the defense wrong no matter what they do. We did that a lot, and I think that's great. I think it's not really a common thing, but rather making sure that we're putting our guys in a position to succeed and not overload the box.
Joe, who we got on the phone?
We got Alex. Alex, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, guys? Calling again from Brazil, man.
It's our guy, yeah. From Brazil.
Love what I saw. And I think, people had doubts about Loggins as the OC, man. I think just the improvement from all the backups overall. Like last year, they were not performing to the level they were tonight. Like, everybody looked ready. Everybody was eating. It was just really nice to look at, and I just appreciated, the game getting better as it progressed. Like you had mentioned before, Mike. I did want to ask Garrett about some specific things that he saw last week. That he saw. Just what do you think was the most major improvements that were made over the last week, and what he feels just needs to get better. Thanks, guys.
All right. Appreciate you calling in. And real quick before you answer that, before I went down on the elevator, Dal Loggins, they hold up the elevators for the coordinators. He had a little smile, just a little, but it was just like, hey, you know what? It's back to work. We got to get ready for Georgia. But to go back to what Alex's question was, what were some of the things that you noticed tonight that was just different?
47 points was making those smile. One thing that I think they did a really good job of, and kind of my biggest knock on last week, and I will never say that I know more than a college paid coordinator, but there's a lot of 5-step drop stuff, and usually you make your game plan based off what you think is going to succeed, and it's really hard to completely shift the game plan in the middle of the game. I think this game plan was different. I think what Loggins did was try to make sure that we put our guys in position to win. We did a lot of quick set, 3-step, throw the ball, especially with the RPO type stuff. But I think that in terms of the O-line, one thing that I did notice, this is a new thing, and this might be too convoluted. I'm going to still talk about it, is that I'm going to kind of turn sideways. When I played college ball,
I'll give you the screen right now.
Not fully out, right about here. And that was to keep distance, make sure you see what the players are doing. What they're doing now is that they're keeping elbows not tight and playing ball here. So if you look at the difference between that and this, I know that sounds really, really minute and irrelevant, but that's the difference in the guy getting underneath you versus you being able to see it and react to it. I've noticed that. I talked to Coach Atkins about it last year. It's something that I know he's doing. This is not just those two guys. This is all of college and NFL. I'm watching those guys actually get a little more space, get a little more separation, so they can see what's happening with offensive players, where they can actually react and respond. I think our guys, that's one thing I hate about the UNC game is that our guys just get beat by these players immediately because they're already in their body. This week this game in particular, I felt like our guys were actually getting games passed off and getting some movement.
I'm going to toss it over to Joe. Joe, who do we have on the line?
We got Clark first. We got another caller behind him, but Clark, you're first. Go ahead.
All right, guys, what's going on? I got one question and then just a comment. The first question is going to be surrounding. Curious because I don't really know how many of these injuries were happening are sort of soft tissue injuries versus joint injuries, and do we need to be concerned about the training staff and the strength and conditioning program here? That's my question, and then my comment is just Lenore Sellers 2024 Heisman confirmed. Good night, gentlemen. Thank you for all you do for Gamecock football.
Thank you, Clark.
Garrett, I'll let you lead things off. I'll let you lead things off. Or does he still have a comment? I'm sorry. Just your comments on just the injuries and all that. And yeah.
So, coaching the college level, coaching the high school level, knowing a lot of street coaches and even the trainers and all that kind of stuff. There's only so much you can control. Soft tissue is important. I mean, when I first came to Carolina, we had Mark Smith, Black Iron, and then we had Craig Fitzgerald, completely old school versus new school. We still had soft tissue issues. We still had people tearing stuff. I think it's important. I think it's something that they're going to keep an eye on. But to be completely honest with you, from fan to a fan, there's only so much you can really control when it comes to that kind of
Some of it's bad luck too. I mean, let's just call it.
It's bad luck.
Joe, you got a thought, or you got another call?
Oh, we got another caller. We got Lewis on the line. Lewis, go ahead.
Hey, first of all, thanks for taking my call. What an awesome game tonight. I thought it was electric all the way around. Again, I'm really encouraged. I think Rattler's definitely I think he's got his swag back and he's shout out. I thought Mario Anderson looked really good out of the backfield. Hope he gets a few more carries next week. And, man, we get U12 going alongside of Luedecke. I mean, I'll tell you what, dude, we can give them runs for their money next week. So appreciate y'all taking my call, and go Cox.
Thank you, Lewis.
Appreciate you calling on in. Look, talking about Rattler, and it goes back to a comment that Dal Logan said the other day, and goes back to some of the stuff we were talking about. You know, last week he said he wasn't Charlie check down. Some of the plays, number one, it was designed that way, right? Screen, short passes in the outside. By the way, and I mentioned this during the game, the receivers, especially Xavier Leggett, because a lot of people want to talk about what he's been doing with his hands in terms of just catching passes. But the big thing that I've noticed that he's been doing is he's been doing an outstanding job on the perimeter with his stock blocking. That's something that Justin Stepp has preached so much since arriving here at South Carolina 3 seasons ago. So I bring that up because, yes, and it goes back to what we were talking about before. I understand it's like, all right, well, yeah, a lot of those passes were short, this and that. That was the design. And what happened in the second half? We saw Rattler go deep. It was like a 40-something yard bomb to Lincoln now. Yeah, it was Leggett. So, but my point being is that was part of the game plan. They liked something that they saw. And like I said to you, I mean, I also think it's a confidence booster for this young offensive line, which, you know, got two true freshmen out there. Fans wanted to see them. Fans wanted to see the young guys. Marquis Anderson, he wasn't out there, of course, because he's still banged up. He was on the 2 deep going into the first game, but unfortunately being banged up with an undisclosed injury. We don't know what that is quite yet. Joe, and we'll get back to you, Garrett. What you got, Joe?
I do have a comment. I mean, you brought up the freshman. First initial thoughts on this game, because you guys have been blowing up the phone lines. We absolutely love it. Thank you guys for calling in. But no, my first thoughts, obviously, it's big for the freshmen. You saw Xavier McLeod with the fumble recovery, Nick Harbor with the touchdown, Lenore Sellers doing really, really, really good things. And so, Mike, I mean, people have been asking for weeks, where's Sellers been? Where's Nick Harbor been in the offense? Well, I mean, now you can see him, right? You see the Beamer era of recruits starting to funnel in and fill these gaps. So everything you saw tonight should give you a lot of hope for the future. I think, you know,
I'm going to try to zoom in on the phone here. I'm going to show Garrett. I posted this on social media. Played a new game. Where's Harbor? I think you guys could figure it out where he is. He's in the end zone. You know, everyone wanted to ask me. So, you know, we played this fun game afterwards. Where's Harbor? Well, he's in the end zone. Look, bottom line is this, and you talked about this before, and it's not just about offensive linemen. With these freshmen, they're all going to come along at different stages, right? You look at some guys, there's, you know, a couple weeks ago, week 0. You see a player for Southern Cal. He's a true freshman. He's out there. He's doing things. We've seen South Carolina from offensive state, right? You think Eamon Worley last year. You think of DQ Smith. You think of some of these younger players who've really stepped up right away. It's not always going to be that way. Offensively, though, we got to see that tonight. And again, you know, it's against some of the backups probably at the FCS level, but they executed. I mean, Sellers, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm a couple steps back than I usually am from the screen. And as you get older, your freaking eyes go. But the point being is Sellers didn't throw an incompletion tonight, correct? He was 4 for 4 for like 80-something yards.
So I believe so. I'm pulling up the stats myself. So we were getting the show off the ground.
We got it right. Here we go. We got it right here for the boys and girls at home. There you go. Here's Sellers' stats. You see Spencer Rattler, too. I mean, 4 for 4 for Sellers. And then, of course, Rattler, 25-27 for almost 350 yards, 4 total touchdowns, able to run it in addition to the 3 touchdown passes that he had.
Just dominating.
When we talk about the offense tonight, though, okay, and give Gamecock fans just some hope, right? What you saw tonight, a lot of people, this is what they expected to see, right? Again, good FCS team, a team that going into tonight had won 8 of their last 9 games. What should make Gamecock fans feel better heading into next week against a very, very good Georgia team?
I think actually one of the best you can look at is actually this game. I mean, if you look at the talent roster for Furman and the talent roster for Carolina, they're night and day different.
Mm-hmm.
They just are. But if you watch what Furman did, they did a lot of things that put their guys in position to be successful. They made sure that they weren't having to do out muscle, out speed. They got them in the right positions, and I think Loggins actually, for us, did that this week. And I think that, you know, when you're facing a team like Georgia, the way that you win those games is not by trying to be bigger, stronger, faster. It's to put your guys in a position to make sure they can score, make sure that you're taking advantage of where the defense isn't at. Make sure that you're keeping your defense off the field. Make sure you control time possession. And if we can do that, I mean, that's what we need to do. That's how you win those games.
No, I thought there was a lot of good things tonight. And look, we know what Georgia's capable of. We know how good Georgia is. They're the two-time defending champs. And they had their struggles. I mean, people were talking about it, right? Former Gamecock coordinator Mike Bobo's over there. And that's the reason why you hear about it a lot, because when one coordinator from one school goes somewhere else, people are going to bring it up. But I say that because I think with this South Carolina team going to Georgia next week, and obviously it's the best team that they're going to see, arguably the entire season. And it's not going to be an easy task by any means, but just that confidence that you picked up tonight. And you're hoping that with the way Rattler's been performing, if Juice Wells is able to get a little healthy, right, and be able to get out. That's the other thing, too, that people aren't really talking about. We really haven't seen Juice yet because he's still battling. Again, I don't know if it's been reported, the toe injury from the offseason, and he's trying to get back out there. It looks like they're kind of easing him into it.
It still blows my mind how efficient Rattler is. I mean, guys, watch other games and realize how many times the quarterback just makes a bad throw. How often in these last two games have you seen Rattler make a bad throw?
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the position, and he just hasn't had a bad throw. That's a blessing. It really is.
Yeah,
Any thoughts,
I got a question. Yeah, I got a question for Garrett really quickly because, I mean, going into this week, all we heard about was, the skill positions. It's similar, in skill level to Division I from FCS. But, I mean, everything and everyone has said the offensive line and the line of scrimmage is a little bit of a dip. So how do you prepare yourself to go up from a Furman to a Georgia? Like, how do you make that switch from week to week as a lineman?
I mean, let's be real here. Huntley is as good as a lot of the guys that Georgia has on D-line.
Yeah.
We're still an SEC team, perhaps against an SEC team. Now, granted, does Georgia have more 5-stars or 4-stars than we do? Of course they do. But let's be real here. There's a lot of guys who have their names up here on the walls that are 2-stars. And, a great 5-star is a guy who was great in high school. What they do from there is what matters. We've got the people on our practice, not our practice squad, but on the other side of the ball that we can go against. They're different, but it's the same. I mean, my first 3 games are Wofford, FAU, and then Auburn at number 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At some point, they're a little faster, a little bigger, but it's still football. And like we talked about in the mix in the water the other day, the stuff that we were screwing up was stuff that we can fix. It wasn't a talent thing.
Yep.
It was a mental error stuff. It's the same thing. Numerous
I
times,
agree.
Carolina has beaten the number 1 team, number 2 team.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you're still blocking the guy in front of you. I just wanted to know if there was any switch and or anything like that. So I like that. That's a good mindset. Yeah.
Let's talk about the other side of the ball. Let's talk defensively. There were times I felt, look, when you look at the stats, other than a broken coverage, and I think, honestly, it wasn't even a broken coverage. I think the defensive back just fell asleep because Furman's a team, and we talked about it all week on the GCLI programming, that they are a team. We might want to move off the field to help the people that are cutting the grass here. We'll help them out. We'll make a little move for them to help them out a little bit. But Furman was a team heading into the game tonight that had rushed for over 200 yards in 3 games. 3 of their last 3 games. So, look, when you have a team like that, we appreciate you guys bearing with us here, trying to move on the fly here to help out the Gamecock crew as they cut the grass. We'll make a spin right here, Garrett. Little uneven, but that's okay.
That's how you know it's live, ladies and gentlemen.
You have a South Carolina team that going into tonight, that Furman's going to want to try to run against you. So look, there were times where the defensive back probably fell asleep a little bit because he's thinking, okay, they're just going to run. They're just going to run. Okay, that was the really only big play. I'm not going to count like the garbage time stuff at the end. I'll let the coaches get upset with those guys. But that aside, from a run defense standpoint, I felt like at the beginning it could have been better. But as the game went on, I felt like the defensive line played a little bit better. It showed you what they're capable of doing. They got a couple sacks, which, of course, that didn't happen last week.
Honestly, a lot of what, and this is a very important thing to keep in mind, is that, with the Furman's number 6 in the FCS
Correct.
level, that's the number 16. That's like us facing a Bama or something like that from the FCS level. That means they've got good coaches and they're very well coached. And I watch this a lot. They weren't blowing Huntley off the ball in the double teams. They weren't blowing Conk off the ball. They went around them. They tried to make sure that they put Blaine in a position where he couldn't take out both people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of what they did. And a lot of their big, consistent runs in the first quarter were just trying to stretch the defense as much as possible to where your talent doesn't matter. You can only go so fast as a human being. But in terms of the things that we needed to see from our defense, we need to see more pass rush. And I think the effort was great. I thought that our guys were consistently fighting, which is what we need. You know, a lot of things that I was concerned about last week, I think they worked on this week. But again, every week is different. They should be in a position to win for the Georgia game.
And I'm looking at some of the comments right now. We kind of made an adjustment on the fly because Garrett's here in person. I'll have Garrett speak up a little bit if you guys can't hear him. If you can hear me, let me know, but I appreciate it. I know this is a little bit different than how we've usually been doing things. Can you hear? What we got, Joe?
Oh, yeah. So I was going to say, Mike, I think the mic is in your AirPods, so you just got to get a little closer to Garrett or something like that.
Okay.
So flip side.
There we go. A little switcheroonie.
If that's better, I don't know. That was what I was thinking. Maybe not. I don't know. We will see. But,
all right. Well,
I can always talk loud. Never a problem.
Yeah.
We're going to make one more move. We're going to go off to the side just because they're cutting the grass here. Want to make sure the stadium's nice for everybody. Garrett will speak right into my ear. Get close, Garrett. Anything else, though, about the defense that really stood out to you tonight?
I'm still blown away by the fact that we get so frustrated with our run game stop that I watch, Blanton and Debo all over the field. I mean, I see them going berserk. I see Huntley taking on double teams all day long. I think Taco was on the opposite side of where they ran the ball, and he chased it down to make the tackle. I mean, stuff like that, there's a play that was going through social media, a lot of effort creates turnovers. That's the effort stuff that you need. We might not have the most talented front. We might not have the most talented, 11 on the field for defense, but the effort's going to get there. The effort's going to win you games, and I think they're coached up well. I think we have the pieces that we need, and I think they're going to get it done.
Yeah.
Joey, read some of these comments for you if you could for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I did have one point on the defense before.
Go for it, Joe.
Yeah. So I was impressed with Marcellus Dial. I will say, if anybody I was impressed with. Didn't start the game out well. Got beat a couple times early, but then really, really turned it on. We saw him play a lot better in coverage as the game went along. So I think that's how Dial is going to be this year. You need him to be nails, especially against Georgia. So maybe this game was the wake-up game. He looked okay at North Carolina. I think the whole defense was just kind of on the same level against North Carolina, so it was hard to judge. But Dial, I was impressed with the way he kind of turned it up towards the end of the game before he got pulled and stuff like that. Defensive line. Garrett, I liked your point about how Furman wasn't really blowing anybody off the ball. They kind of had to go around the plays that they had success on. They were kind of cutting the defensive linemen, sweeps, outside stuff, not really stuff that you're getting, out physicaled on. It's a good point, good way to look at it. Cause I agree. They weren't really getting out physicaled in any area of this game. And we really didn't think they were going in. So everything went according to plan. And defensively, last thing as a team, I was impressed with just everyone filled their gaps and tackled, right? When you tackle and when you're in the right spot, good things happen. And I think we saw that this week. And two, they didn't really tackle the greatest at the beginning of the game, but we saw them kind of get internally and realize, hey, we're in the right spots. All we have to do is wrap up and we're fine. And it was a really good adjustment by the defense to, pick themselves up and be like, hey, we're there, just make the play. And that's exactly what they did. So
I like that comment right there, though. Stone and Debo. I know
the linebackers were having a lot of fun tonight.
It wasn't a sack. Actually, it was a completion, but I think everyone's going to remember seeing 52 come right through that freaking line and lice that quarterback. And it gives you a sense of, number one, we talked about this last week, just how much quicker Stone's playing after dropping down about 10, 12, 15 pounds since last year. But number two, how he's beginning to trust his eyes more. That was something that going back to last year, and again, we've mentioned this before, Joe, it seems like we pick on Stone with this game, but I'm sure he would admit it if he was here with us. I think back to that Vanderbilt game. That was really the first time when he was thrown into the mix last year as obviously a true freshman, and he had more snaps, had more reps out there, and it just felt like at times he was really getting his eyes stuck in the backfield, and he wasn't trusting his eyes. He was playing slow, and it wasn't just because he had an extra 10 pounds or 12 pounds of baby fat on him. No, it was just because he was young and he didn't have that in-game experience. So when you factor in last year, when you factor in the fact that, and I hate it for him, absolutely hate it for Mo Kaba, but because Mo was out this spring, he was able to get a lot of first-team reps. And he learned from Mo, who was a tremendous, tremendous leader. And Stone mentioned that, just how much he was able to learn from him. So because of that experience, and I know we still have, 10 more regular season games to go, but when we're talking about this offensive line, it should excite you. It should excite you. Like, man, they're, you know what I mean? You hear what I'm trying to get at? They're getting in-game experience right now. And of course, next week you're going up against the big boys. You know what I mean? You're playing Georgia next week.
But that's what you want, though. Like, at a certain point, I'll be completely honest with you guys. If you faced the same guys through the spring and the same guys through the fall, you get really sick and tired of seeing your guys. I knew exactly what Traven was going to do. I knew exactly what those guys were going to do because I saw them every single week. You want to face a Georgia team. You want to face a guy who's going to make you better. He's not going to know all your weaknesses, and he's going to also try new things against you. That's what you want to see, and I think this is going to be one of those things, especially for Stone, too. I mean, defensive linebackers, they're going to see a very efficient offense, but they're going to also watch them on film all week. That's what you need as a young guy to progress.
And the linebackers were playing with confidence, too. I think we saw a lot more confidence out of Stone and Debo tonight, and it was very, very clear in their game. I think if they bring that into Georgia, it certainly makes a case to stop the offense. And that's really the only way you can stop a Brock Bowers is by playing with confidence across the board, knowing that you can stop them and will. So I think it was a big game for, defensive confidence, especially for these linebackers after you lose a Mokaba. You know you've got it in you, so carry that into next week. I think it's very big.
The Mokaba thing is very frustrating, but if you watch Stone and Debo today, I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's what I expect.
Yeah, let's talk about running backs. Let's talk about the running game for a second, because I see there's some Mario Anderson questions.
Yeah,
and put the Mario. Let's have the Mario Anderson question up first. We'll answer that, and then we'll talk about running backs as a whole. We got Joe.
Yeah, Brian asked, why not let Mario Anderson run some more? DK could be used better in the quick passing game. He needs a little space before getting going. His added size will make him harder to tackle, but needs to get room to get going.
I can answer this, and this is something that I can experience. I can talk about from experience from being a fan, a player, and a fan again. We watch 12 games on Saturday. We watch the spring game, and that's all we ever see. There is so much film. There is so much practice. There is so much workouts. There are so many other things that are happening behind the scenes that we never see. Now, granted, there are always going to be your guys. They're just gamers. They're guys that are going to show up on Saturdays and not just be there for practice, and then vice versa. But understanding that there's a reason that the guys that are starting and the guys that are not starting are not starting. And I'm not talking trash. And most players will validate this, even that are playing right now.
What's the old saying? What's the old saying about the camera up top? The eye in the sky don't lie. And unfortunately, we're not at practice every day. So I bring that up, though, Garrett. I'm glad you did, because, look, and it's not true apples to apples when we're talking about true freshmen, but it goes back in a little bit, not the exact same, because Nicholas Harbor was banged up a little bit during preseason camp towards the tail end. But it goes back to, where's Nick Harbor? Where's Mario Anderson? Where's this person? Where's that person? Well, a couple things. First off, this is just the second game of the year, okay? Next week against Georgia, obviously a much bigger, faster, stronger opponent, an SEC team. Things might be a little different than what we saw tonight. So I bring that up because it's still so early in the year, but here's the good thing. Not only have these guys been able to get more practices under their belt from this past week, but for a lot of these younger players, and even guys that are new here, such as Mario Anderson coming from Newberry, they're able to get some FBS action. And even though you're going up against an FCS team, my point being is you're able to experience what it's like to play in a game at Williams-Brice Stadium. Can that replicate going up against the Georgias of the world? But no. But you're able to at least say, hey, I'm feeling better about myself now in comparison to where I might have felt heading into that North Carolina game.
And guys, keep in mind, there's a difference in Dak going against Furman that believes they can win because they're up 7-0 versus the freshman going in against Furman up 40 points versus the guys that are exhausted. Those are completely different teams. You know what I mean? Like, I know you're going to see a lot of the freshmen look great at the end of the fourth quarter, but that's because Furman's ready to go home, you know?
Yeah. Hey, we do need to hit some ads real quick. Mike, do you want to hit the ads?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Trying to get Garrett's head in here. Yeah. Get yourself
So,
all situated, Garrett.
Our first ad tonight is our good friends over at Liberty Tax. Tax ID is that certain feeling you get right before doing your taxes, but you don't have to go through it alone. The tax team at Liberty Tax in Irmo, Lexington, and Columbia will walk you through the process, clear up any confusion, and guarantee you'll get the biggest possible refund or your money back. It's tax time. If you're in a hurry for your refund, call the tax team at Liberty Tax. Fast, accurate, and guaranteed. On the other hand, if you think you might be owing Uncle Sam, talk to Liberty Tax team to make sure you're not paying more than you should owe. They'll find every possible deduction for you. Locally owned and operated, staffed by tax professionals from your neighborhood, open 9 to 9 on weekdays and 9 to 5 on Saturdays with multiple service options. Start through the Liberty Tax mobile app or through the desktop portal. Make an appointment or just walk in. Give a call to upload your tax documents, and when you come in, your return will be ready to review and sign. Give them a call at 803-462-5576. Once again, on your screen, 803-462-5576 for all of your tax needs.
And I'm trying to mute the microphone here because, I mean, they don't mess around here. They want to get the grass ready to go. We got a big game here 2 weeks from now in South Carolina. Takes on Mississippi State. Yeah, it looks great. Hey, those bushes. I know it's been 294 days, but great job by the grounds crew getting the bushes back into the field, looking crisp. I do want to say this though. Oh, excuse me. I want to make sure we do our ad though with Clint first. Clint, we'll get into it. Today's program, as it always is, we cannot forget Clint Hammond. He's not only a longtime supporter of Gamecock Central, but he is the official sponsor of every GC live show that you see. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We have GC live shows every single day. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you have it with Chris and Wes. Tuesday nights, it's Talking Tuesdays at 7 with intern Joe and myself. And then on Thursday, it is at 2. But Clint Hammond, if you want to buy a home right now, those rates, it's crazy. You know, it's not the easiest thing to do right now. Clint and his team can help you out the same way that he helped out former Gamecock quarterback Barry Orth, as well as our very own Wes Mitchell. Give Clint a call over at Movement Mortgage, 803-771-6933. And as the blower comes by, Garrett, I know you actually work with Clint.
Yes, guys, for those who don't know, I'm in real estate. Garrett Anderson and Mike Tools, we both do real estate over since 21. I can speak personally about Clint Hammond. That's the guy that I do some real estate stuff with. Phenomenal human. Movement Mortgage is a very good company. When you're talking about looking at the bank to go with, going with a company that is a mortgage-only company, that's their only business. They don't make more money doing stock trading and portfolios. They make money by selling houses, so they got to be competitive. Clint's a good person. That's a great place to go with. And if you ever got a question about buying a house, let me know.
Let them know. Let them know. Well, from asking you about buying a house to talking more about the running backs, because there's a lot going on here. I think Kenneth actually asked this. We're going to pull Kenneth's question up real quick. Joe, if you want to send the number up too to let people after this question. Actually, I'm going to pull Joe up because our eyes are just going. This is what happens when you're old. Joe, if you can read that question for us and then put that number up for everyone so they know what the number is they're going to call in.
Yeah, Kenneth asks, Garrett, what is your opinion as to why we are unable to get any explosive runs in, be that between the tackles or in the screen game?
I'm going to start with this, and this is not a knock on DK at all. DK is a very, very good human, a very good athlete. He is not a natural running back, and he's just not. And I know that the fans don't want to hear that, but that's the best guy we have for the job right now. And so we're working with what we got. I think DK puts us in a great position to win. But those explosive plays are going to come from a handful of things. They're going to come from getting really good movement off the ball, but also breaking a bunch of tackles on the way out. I mean, I watched it today. DK was great at breaking the first tackle and maybe the second tackle, but not the third and fourth. And I know that sounds like a lot, but that's what we expect of backs right now. Another thing that gets you a lot of explosive plays is making sure that we get the defense so spread out to where we can really just, break those two and then be gone. What we had a lot today that I noticed is that those safeties were screaming down the moment they saw a run. I like that. That's good. I know this sounds kind of weird, but there's a lot of stuff you do versus Furman so that Clemson bites on it down the road. You're going to do a lot of stuff that you put on film now that every other team is going to watch going forward. We're going to see those come up as we watch teams over-prepare for what we've shown on film. I'm not going to say that we're going to have a billion explosive plays going forward. That is in the works, but we're going to have to work with work with. But that will happen over time.
And I see your comment, Daniel. I'm trying to lean on in. That's why I'm leaning on in, so Garrett can get on in here. We'll get that corrected moving forward because Garrett's at the game. We're going to have some of the former players. I know Michael Scarnecchia. So we'll get that corrected moving forward. So appreciate you guys who are bearing with us. A little bit different than we typically do, but look. We've talked a lot about the running backs going back to the offseason, Garrett, and I understand the questions about why aren't we seeing Mario more? Why aren't we seeing this other person more? Why aren't we seeing that? I think it's a comfortability thing. Look, I know Juju. I know Juju is heading into the season. He was the only true returning running back. And when I say returning, obviously there's walk-ons, but I'm talking about a guy that has been in games at South Carolina, proven talent here. It was a comfortability thing, but it was also a trust thing with putting DK out there. But now, and again, like we've talked about with some of these offensive linemen, and it's a little bit different there. But what I'm trying to get at is they've at least had an opportunity to get in a game now. They actually have some game tape now here at USC.
And guys, I can speak to this too. So my wife is from Iowa. Her mom and her mom's fiance were in town. This is their first SEC game. Guys, I forget this because we're here. This is a very intimidating stadium, and this isn't just intimidating for the other team. This is intimidating for the guys who've always wanted to play college ball, and then you're in front of 85,000 with the lights going crazy. It's a lot, and I think these are great games to get those freshmen in. I think that's why you want to get them in the third and fourth quarter versus a worn down FCS team. I hear that with a lot of the guys that we see, and it's always great seeing those younger guys. But again, the practice film is what the coaches are looking at. The reason why we're not seeing those other guys is that you're watching film as a coach, as a guy who's getting paid, either millions of dollars or close to millions of dollars a year to do your job. They're seeing that what we've got with DK and with Juju is going to put us in a position to succeed versus the other guys. This is what it is.
And I thought, look, DK this week looked more comfortable than last week. And we could sit here and say, well, he's going up against an FCS team. I understand that. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think the O-line opening up some holes. However, and Beamer mentioned it at Carolina Calls on Thursday, DK had to do a better job. And it wasn't just DK. I'm throwing DK out there. But the running backs had to do a better job of seeing a hole and hitting it, right? Not dinking around, not missing it, making that cut and being able to get in there. So I thought he did a much better job of that. And I think, look, just as a whole, the running backs gave you a better chance tonight. Does that mean there's no issues at running back? Certainly not. Certainly not. And you're going up against a very good defense, right? I know people don't want to hear that because Will Muscham's the defensive coordinator. However, they have a very good defense. We saw last year there's a lot of movement before the snap, right? Trying to confuse them a little bit because South Carolina had issues when they were doing their zone blocking, and Muschamp would call that shift right at the last minute. So we don't know what we're going to see next week, but the reality is it's going to get tougher. But being able to at least get some confidence tonight, not just DK, but this running back room, you have to feel good about it.
And guys,
better, at least.
Better. And guys, this is something that I will say from a coach perspective is something to keep in mind. This is something that I've always agreed with and something that I take in my coaching. Saban will be way more mad about a win by 40 than he will be by a loss by 10. Because it does not matter what the score is, it matters how you played. We did not have a good game in Charlotte, but we progressed with Furman. And whether we win or lose the Georgia game, if we progress as a team, that's going to get you those 8 to 10 wins. That's what you want to see out of your Shane Beamer program in year 3 with a guy like Spencer Rattler. Is progression. If our backs are making better cuts, if our O-line is actually progressing. I mean, how many sacks tonight?
I think it was 2, Joe. And a lot of those sacks came
those
once you had the backups.
Yes, it's stuff like that. If we're seeing progression, that's going to lead us to the wins that let's be honest, that we really care about, which are going to be the Clemson game, the Florida games. Those kind of games are going to be happening because we progressed in these weeks. Whether we win or lose next week, I know no one's here because no one likes to freaking lose to Georgia, which we listen to for 365 days. But that's what we got to see next week is that progression, getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple thoughts from me on the run game. And William asks, will I have my show tomorrow? Yes, it'll be posted tomorrow night. Yes, for tomorrow, really quickly, I have Tyler Head and Wes Mitchell. Super excited to have them on the walkthrough.
Tyler Head of 107.5 The Game, and obviously Wes Mitchell of our very own Gamecock Central.
Yep. So, yeah, it's going to be a good episode. William, appreciate you asking. But no, a couple thoughts on the run game. I think it looked obviously a lot better than last week. The offensive line looked together. I know Gargiulo and Vershawn Lee talked about it. Just keeping the quarterback off of his rear end, I think they did a really good job of. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to compare last week and this week because it was such a drastic difference. So I think, as my phone is going crazy, I apologize for that. But no, very drastic difference. Offensive line looked together, which is why we saw the production in the run game. Garrett, I liked your point about DK Joyner. I think he's developing. He's going to develop a little bit more as the year goes on as a natural running back. So just it's all around good stuff from the run game. A lot better, and it's what you want to see going into Georgia.
Yep.
Couple things, too, I want to add, because I've seen the comments come up and we haven't talked about them. Ty Russell, young gun, getting his first career touchdown tonight. Caldwell got some action in there. But one player in particular, I'm not saying we hadn't heard about these other guys, but Spencer Rattler mentioned at SEC Media Days, keep an eye on Omega Blake. And the touchdown that he had down here, and I posted it on Twitter at the time. I think I posted it on the forum as well in Gamecock Central, which, by the way, if you're not a subscriber, sign up today. Really cheap deals right now. Awesome. You get basketball, football, everything else in between. It's not just football season, but, of course, with recruiting. And there were some big-name guys here tonight. A couple 5-stars tonight, Wes Mitchell and Chris Clark. We'll usually have updates as late as Monday, but probably by tomorrow if you guys want to read that on the Insiders Forum of how that visit went tonight for some of those 5-stars and other players. But that touchdown by Omega Blake, it reminded me of like a power forward in the paint, just using his body, just boxing out and being able to get that touchdown. With some of these guys, I mean, I mentioned Omega, Russell. Is there anyone that really stood out? It could be Nicholas Harbor. You can use the easy answer if you want.
I will say this, and this is just something as an ex-Carolina player and a fan. I love seeing Luke get a touchdown in the end zone. I love seeing that
Luke
stuff.
Doty. Oh.
A great human. He is a great person for the program. He is a Gamecock for life. I love seeing him get a touchdown. That makes me happy. I think we're going to work into this. I know it's going to be really loud, so I'm going to try to speak really loud.
I'm going to lean on into you.
I think what we're doing with the receivers blocking, for those who have never played that position, that is one of the hardest things in football. That's coming from a lineman who's at a block, first rounders. A receiver blocking in space for time is tough. But watching Brown, watching all those guys fight out there, that's going to have dividends over time. And I think that the more that we lean into doing those kind of quick game things that we get our athletes out in space, getting our receivers to be dogs, that's going to start having dividends over time. I agree too with the DK stuff. I think that the more that we give DK 20 rushes a game, we're going to see those dividends about mid-season.
Yeah, we see your comments about the audio. It's tough right now, and they got they're cutting the grass instantly, so we apologize for that. But we'll get the audio fixed next week. Look, you mentioned Luke Doty. We talk about it so much with the carry-on Joyner. And I'm not saying Doty wouldn't have been the way that he is if it wasn't for Joyner. But I think it's just a prime example of just these little things that we mentioned. We talk about culture and just being a team guy, right? It's the stuff that I think people don't really necessarily care about when they're talking about the wins and losses. And I get that. But the point being is when you do have so much young talent coming in here, so much young talent, and you do have a DK, right? And everyone gets to know his story. All these young guys will get to know DK's story. Doty, great example too. People get to know his story when they're teammates with him. It's one of those things that they're going to be able to making impact on some of these younger guys so that when we're talking a year from now, when we're talking 2 years from now, and you continue to bring in this talent, you look at this 2024 class, we're not done yet. You're going to have guys that hopefully are dogs, number one, but number two, they understand what the upperclassmen have been able to do and the way that they went about it.
I hate to use this example, but this is the best example I can think of. I think it was Christian Wilkins at Clemson. He was the first round guy, but he came back to Clemson because he said that there was no amount of money that the NFL could have paid him that would have been better than his time at Clemson his senior year. That's culture. And I think that seeing people like DK, seeing people like Luke that love Carolina over everything, that's that culture. And that culture is going to carry you through way less talented teams, way less NIL pools, things like that to give you those victories like we've had in the past. And I think that those are the kind of people that you've got to take care of because they're going to build a program that's going to last.
As we look forward, though, to next week, and again, we're going to find out what this South Carolina team's all about. We really are. I don't want to, as we wait for the lawnmowers to drive by us, I don't want to say, like, regardless of how things play out next week, it's like a consolation, like, you can find any prize. But as we do look ahead, the obvious is being able to win. The obvious is being able to put up points. But what do you want to see from this team next week?
Guys, I think this is something that's very important to make sure that you guys as fans understand. So I coached 2 years in college at New Mexico State. I was a grad assistant. did a lot of the film stuff. There are games on your schedule, especially earlier games. They watch Furman film. They watch UNC film. I can almost guarantee you they've watched as much Georgia film already as they have those other two teams before season started. I promise you, I know someone mentioned about having some stuff to get them on their heels. There's going to be some wrinkles in this offense. They're going to have something ready to go.
Intern Joe, I'm going to toss it to you because we got the lawnmowers just blowing us everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, where to start? I haven't really talked about Doty at all. Doty was big this week in his presser, talking about how he and Spencer kind of know each other like the back of each other's hands. Or like the back of their hand. It's late, so excuse me for that. But no, Doty was big tonight. He one thing that stuck out to me from his weekly presser was he called learning or relearning how to play wide receiver like riding a bike. He said you never really lose it, and I think we saw that tonight. Really, really good stuff out of the backup, and then when he was in the game, good stuff out of him as well. He's like Garrett said earlier, South Carolina guy, tried and true. Really, really big night for him. And it's really exactly what you want to see out of a guy like Doty, a leader on and off the field. Just great night for your quarterbacks, led by, your star player and I guess franchise QB, Spencer Rattler. Mike is muted at the moment as he's still getting the mowers.
Oh, don't worry. You're not going to hear anything anyway. We got the we're going to get this corrected in 2 weeks, though, when South Carolina is back at Williams Price and they take Mississippi State.
We got a question, Mike, real quick.
What we got from Kenneth. We're going to wrap things up in a little bit, though.
Yeah. With this win, do you think that disgruntled fans will stop asking us to run slant routes?
Garrett, you go.
No. Listen, I know, especially
this fan base
get frustrated, but at the end of the day, guys, what makes Carolina great is the passion. It is what it is. People are going to have I've talked to so many people this week that have very strong opinions about what's going to change the game. That's what makes us great. And I'm not saying be as ruthless as possible, but people are going to still have options because they care about us winning the games. It's kind of what makes it great.
Yeah, this is a good point here from God Loves Comics real quick. We just need a total focus on protecting Spencer next week, and that gives us a chance. I completely agree. Garrett, as an offensive line, I know this week was a big kind of building block week. How do you carry the momentum into next week, going into a Georgia, and just protect your quarterback, knowing that he's going to get the job done?
You keep fighting. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, especially for the O-line, this is the humble group of the entire team. You never look at a game and go, well, we made it. It doesn't matter. You only get heard of if you suck. No one's talking about LSU or, FSU's O-line. No one's talking about – they might tonight after Bama lost to Texas. But no one talks about the O-line when they do their job well. They only talk about them when they're doing a bad job. They're not going to, rest on their morals saying, hey, we had a great Furman game. They're going to continue to get after it. And I liked what number 69 said in his presser, that you will not find a group that's more concerned with our play than the O-line room. They're going to continue to beat the heck out of their bodies until they are satisfied with the output on the field. They're not going to do anything different. They can keep on working.
You say nothing different. I know this isn't what you're exactly saying, but I want to it makes me think about this. Did you like the combination enough with the younger guys getting in there to have that as your rotation for the O-line next week? Now, granted, it's easy for us just to say that right now without going back and watching the film. For you might have noticed some things to the naked eye. But do you feel comfortable having those two freshmen or maybe one of these freshmen in there next week as you head to Athens?
That's one thing that Spurrier did with a couple guys. That was I thank goodness my first game was not, Auburn at number 2. It's good for these young guys to get that rep at Furman. I think it's not a bad idea to throw them in there, but it's going to really depend on how bad is the guy in front of them. If the guy in front of them just giving up 3-4 sacks a game and that guy solely is killing us, roll him in. I am all for getting that experience for the younger guys. But I think at the end of the day, like I thought about the film, you'd rather have the experienced guy be C- than a freshman go in there and give you these plays that are going to not only lose you the game, but get Rattler hurt or something like that.
Hey, let's talk some grades real quick. Sure. I mean, you're gonna kind of help me out. It's kind of like the old cliff notes because I got to do my keys of the game, and then I grade them the next day. So I'm going to copy your homework right now. I'm sure we'd all agree that last week, if we had to grade the offensive line, we would have given them an F. Maybe you would have been different. Would you say F?
It's in the D
Okay,
minus range.
D.
I mean, I've seen worse, unfortunately.
All right, so I say that, though. How would you grade the offensive line tonight from the starter's standpoint?
And understand, guys, when you
Without
grade,
going back and watching the film quite yet, which is tough.
And I tried to get a good grasp when we were there. Understanding, guys, that I don't think I've ever graded outside of maybe some unbelievable talents in the NFL. I've never really graded an O-line in the AAA plus range. It's just not. That's not how the O-line works. You're going to always have mistakes. Even the best O-lines have mistakes.
It's like giving 10s. You don't give 10s out because if you hit a 10, then if you see another 10,
everything is below. Yeah. I think we were in the C plus range this week. I know everyone's going to see that and go, oh, Garrett thinks they suck. It's really not that. I think we're progressing, but I still think there's a lot of things where we had the offsides. We had a couple of things here and there that those are mental things. Those are things that those should keep you up at night as an O-lineman. These are the things that you should know you can fix by just being more mentally solid. But the calls were better than the calls in terms of the offense making the right decisions. In terms of us actually going to the right guys, getting the double teams better, but there's still a lot of work to be done, and I know they know that.
As we sit here right now at Williams-Brice Stadium, about to wrap up, we're getting the field prepared, trying to get ready for the next home game against Mississippi State in 2 weeks. I see in the distance to the left, I think that is Todd Ellis. I don't know if Shane Beamer is there quite yet, but they tape their post-game show that you can catch on Valley Sports. Look, bottom line is this. It's a win. No one is saying, get the floats ready. Let's go down Main Street because South Carolina beat Furman. But again, this isn't TikTok Tech. This isn't some of the teams that you typically play when you play an FCS opponent or when you play a lower FBS opponent. In the end, and this is what we talked about on GC Live all week long, which is this is a team that as the game goes on, you are bigger, you are faster, you are stronger than. You should be able to wear them down despite the fact that they have had a lot of success at the SBF level, at the FCS level. I bring that up because, look, we've seen over the years. We could talk about, and I'm not comparing teams because people are going to be like, oh, App State was much better when they beat Michigan. Just look today. Holy Cross almost upsetted Boston College. And I know Boston College, they're not fantastic right now. But the point being is there's a lot of teams out there. Clemson even in the first quarter today.
That was a game.
That was a game. I know it opened up later on. But my point being is look across college football, not just this week, but last week. And, again, feel good about tonight. Right, kind of like a 24-hour world. Flush it tomorrow night. But this is what they needed to do. They needed to be able to gain some confidence, and I feel like for the most part, for a lot of positions, they were able to do just that.
And guys, I'd be the first one to tell you that if we won 31-10, I'd still be as proud as them. I would still be as proud of them at 31-10 as I am 47-21. I think it's what it was. They're improving on the ways they need to improve. That's still a good Furman team. And I'm gonna say this as the guy talking trash about Clemson. I think Furman's a better team than Charleston Southern is. You know what I mean? I think that's the fact that we wore down that team, the way they're coached, the way they actually handle the ball. That's a good football team, and we handled them well when it mattered.
Yeah, absolutely. Closing thoughts from me, I guess. Really good, solid team win. Spencer was as advertised once again. He's comfortable. He's confident. I mean, this is the Spencer Rattler we were expecting to see. He's continuing his strong play. The offense is clearly designed around him. And then, I mean, with that, get the rest of my thoughts on the walkthrough tomorrow with Tyler Head and Wes Mitchell. Should be posted around 5, 6 o'clock-ish, depending on the injury report from the call-in show. So we will see. But
we'll get the audio corrected. I know I got to lean into Garrett's here right now, but hey, look, all right, Garrett's here. Garrett's like, I want to do it on the field, so Garrett got on down here.
Made it happen.
We'll make these things happen, though, so we appreciate it. We're gonna post this. Hopefully, we'll see if the audio is good enough to post it as we typically do to the podcast.
Yep.
So if you've missed any of the show, head on back to the Gamecock Central podcast platform. You can also go back on the Gamecock Central YouTube page and watch this show in its entirety. See us getting blown in the face with grass and moving around like we're doing a Chinese fire drill. But in all seriousness, we appreciate that everyone that tuned in tonight. if you're heading on out, I know it's midnight now as we head into Sunday. Mix in a couple waters tonight. You know what? Screw it. You won. No mixing in waters tonight. Enjoy NFL Sunday. Enjoy the walkthrough tomorrow night with intern Joe around 7 o'clock. And on Monday, we have Mike Matulis, another offensive lineman. And I want to stay with this theme because we're going to talk a lot about O-line. You guys want to listen to O-line. We're going to get some skill guys in there.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say the name, but see that guy? Yeah, we're going to have him on.
He should know a little something.
Yeah, he should know something, but I kind of had to bump him. I said, listen, we got to get the O-line on last week, so we're not going to spoil who it is
I know
quite yet.
exactly who it is. You guys are going to be excited.
Hey, again, appreciate everyone that tuned in tonight. Have yourself a great rest of your Saturday into Monday morning, and we'll do it again next week, and we appreciate everyone that tuned in tonight. Intern Joe, I'm Mike Yuba. He's Garrett Anderson. Have yourself a great Sunday morning, and enjoy the rest of